Hey, what's up? Quattro here, and today we're going to be taking a look at how to set up the blueprints for car modeling or pretty much any other modeling for 3ds Max. Now, I do have to say that this will work in any other 3D application, but I have 3ds Max 2012 and that's what I'm going to be using for today's lesson. So here we are in Photoshop, and I already have my blueprint imported. It's a Lamborghini Gallardo, and we're gonna cut it up into pieces and then import those pieces into 3ds Max, and I'm gonna show you how to set different viewing modes, so to speak, for your blueprints. So let's get started. So first off, I'm gonna cut all the pieces out. Now, to make this process easier, if you're in Photoshop, make sure you have your rulers on. They're on by default, so you shouldn't have any problems with that. But if you don't, I think, yeah, view rulers. So make sure that's on. It's gonna make your life way easier. So first off, if you click and drag on the ruler, you can actually drag out this grid thing that will help you in the future. So we're gonna align these with the extremities of our blueprint. If you hold Control, you can move them if you actually make a mistake. So we're gonna align them with our blueprint here. Drag another one. There we go. This could be a little bit tedious, but it'll pay off in the end. There we go. And then go to the next one. So basically this is the first step to basically just take all the extremities. Now also these grid lines will help you determine if your blueprint is aligned properly. For example, I can see that my mirror extremities line up here, but don't really line up that well here. Well, that's acceptable, but you can always go and fix that, but I'll leave that for another day. Well, but you should know because, that for modeling you would want your blueprints to be very precise. So I'm gonna just align all this stuff here quickly, hopefully not take too long. Let's go remove that. Move that a little bit. Create the new one here. There we go. And two last ones for the mirrors here. So basically this is the first step, like I said. Just drag out the grid lines. Now, this is where the fun begins. I actually have my selection tool selected. Now, if I click on the corner of our intersection here, you don't have to be too precise, but as you can see, the selection snaps to my grid lines. So this makes your life very easy. And then you just go to Image, Crop, Control-Shift-S for saving. And I'm going to save to my Gallardo, and we're going to say this is blueprint Gallardo back. And I'm going to choose the PNG file format because I'm a lover of PNGs. Done. Now we're going to go back to the full view. We're going to select another one. Again, Image, Crop, Control-Shift-S, or File, Save As. And we're gonna say this is Gallardo top. Save it, save it. Go back. As you can see, this is very fast. Image, Crop, Control-Shift-S, Gallardo, front back, and I'm using the command Control-Alt-Z for going back. You can also go step backwards, edit step backwards. So Control-Alt-Z, that's what it does. Again, ta-da, image, crop, well, not crap, crop. Anyway, sorry. Control-Shift-S, Gallardo, side, save it. So, now that we have everything in place, let's go to 3ds Max. Now, how do we actually set this whole thing up? Well, you can set it up as a viewport background, but that would require some specific preparations. First, you would need your blueprints specially prepared. You know, like for example, if you want to model this on the grid line, you would have to have like the upper half of the blueprint with the actual image, and the lower half have the same amount of emptiness and all that stuff. So basically, I'm gonna show you how to create planes and texture them. So basically, I'm gonna create, easy as that. Now we're gonna go to my desktop, Gallardo, and we're gonna see the dimensions here, which are 1997 times 1023. So I'm gonna input that 1997 by 1023, and just for convenience, I'm gonna zero out the transforms. Now I'm working in millimeters here, but this should translate the same in any other measurements. So let's get the grid out. I'm pressing G to get the grids away. Now, to set up the materials, so I'm gonna click M, or the material slot, and we're gonna add a texture, bitmap, and we're gonna say Gallardo top, open it up, and we're gonna apply the material and make sure it shows in the viewport. So instantly we're having this nice view of our blueprint. However, in 3ds Max 2012, I'm getting this mip mapping thing which I don't really like. So how do we get rid of that? Well, first of all, we're gonna say material, show materials in viewport as realistic materials with maps. In older 3ds Max versions, that should translate pretty much the same if you select hardware shading with maps. I think that hardware display with maps, actually. Now I'm not sure if this would give you the exact same result, but as you can see, this gives me a very crisp, nice preview. So this is one way that people prefer working with, and let's add realistic. There we go. Now there's another thing that we can do. We can go to maps and actually copy this map to an opacity map. We're gonna swap it. It takes a while to load to create the shader with the transparency, but as it's done, you can actually see that my blackness becomes transparent, which is interesting. Now the thing is, I probably wouldn't want the black part to be transparent. I would want the whole whiteness to be transparent. So how do I go and do that? Well, I go to our map, click on the bitmap, and load a color correction filter. Keep old map as a submap. Again, it will recompile the shaders for the display. And as soon as we're done, I'm gonna click invert. Wait a second for the shaders to recompile. Amazing. Now as you can see, all my blackness has become transparent, and I'm only left with these sexy lines, which will not get in the way of modeling. Amazing. So what else? If you don't like the gray color, you can actually, for example, pick a color you like. Let's say green. Amazing. And let's set the self-illumination to 100. That means, if we set the self-illumination, that means that our model will not get darker with the angle. See, so we're gonna get a crisp preview all the way through. So that's one thing. Now, you might want a two-sided preview. So we're gonna just enable the two-sided option on our shader. Again, it's gonna recompile, and done and done. Now, one of the first problems you might encounter using this method is if you go to wireframe, you're gonna have all these obnoxious lines here. So how do we get rid of that? Well, first of all, we select the plane and make sure our length segments are 1 and width segments are also 1. So that leaves us with a bounding box, but you probably don't want that either. So there's an easy way to get rid of that. We're gonna take a custom color, and we're gonna pick the viewport color. Add color, whatever, pick that color. Done. So this is with shaded edges, without, with, without. So no difference in that. Incredible. So another thing you might want to do when modeling is you might want to change your background color, because working on gray might not necessarily be convenient. For some people, you might want to work on bluish or black or white. We can do that. We can right click, or actually in 3ds Max 2012 you can just left click and go to configure, and we're gonna say use environment background color. I'm gonna say OK. Now if I press 8 or rendering environment, this dialog pops up, and we have the environment color, which is currently set to black. So you can change that there. Again, if you don't want the borders, just click on black. Done and done. Very sexy. So, and this does not affect the other viewports, so you don't have to worry about that. You can just model in peace. What else? You probably wouldn't want to accidentally move your blueprint, so one of the things I suggest is freezing it, but also please check the show frozen in gray. Actually uncheck it, because if you don't uncheck it, it's gonna show up as a gray plane, and you don't really want that. So just uncheck the show frozen in gray, freeze it, done and done. Create your stuff without the fear of selecting the blueprint. So now we're gonna create the other blueprints the same way. We're gonna use angle snaps here and just turn this 90 degrees, make a copy, move it. Now my width here is 1023, so I would probably want to move this half of that, which is, if I, let's say, there isn't anything, oh, anyway, half of 1023 is actually 511.5. Oops, wrong measurement. Ta-da. Am I right or am I wrong? Yes, I'm right. There we go. So we're gonna take the side one and see it is 551 tall. So we're gonna make it 551 tall, and we're gonna move it up half of 551. That's in Z. Half of 551, if my math is not too rusty, is 275.5. At least it should be. Yeah, that is amazing. Whee! Anyway, so now we're gonna set up a new material for the. We can just copy it, change the name, whatever, and just oops. Go to our maps and change the bitmap from top to side and assign to object. Ta-da! Very pretty. And that is basically how you create all the other viewports that you may or may not have, because some blueprints usually come in 4 views, some come in 5, some come in just 2, so it really depends on the blueprint, but basically you just gotta position the blueprints in a desired position and set up the materials, and this is what you're gonna end up with. Pretty nice, I'd say, pretty nice. So hopefully you've learned something in this tutorial, and yeah, I think there's nothing more to add. Well, anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed this tutorial and probably you love me more now. Maybe not, I don't know. Anyway, so consider subscribing for more tutorials on 3ds Max and After Effects and possibly Photoshop, I don't know. Also be sure to check out my DeviantArt account, and the link will be below. And we'll see you next time.